Jeff, thank you for jumping on here, buddy. I just have to say to be able to have, I was gonna coming on here. I was like, cool. I get to like have a conscious conversation with Jeff and share his message to the world. And then I was kind of laughing. We always have conscious converse. It's always a conscious, high level communication conversation with Jeff. Like it's just straight up. And then, just for everyone listening, I met you over 20 years ago already. Like we were studying psychology, spiritual psychology, all this stuff. You and I became fast friends. And it's interesting. I want you to talk about, because number one, I love this. I love that you put your wisdom into a book for people to be able to harness and grab and get a glimpse of your ability to tap in so that others can tap in. And you've always had such an amazing ability to get right at it and to help people and guide people. But why don't you kind of let's step back, because I'd love to reminisce a little bit about how we met and then what your arc was of I know a bit, but I don't want to say it. Like, you were acting and you were doing a bunch of stuff, but we both were in this period of time where we were jumping into learning and really gave ourselves the opportunity to dive into ourselves more and more and more. So why don't you just talk us through the viewer a little bit, or the listener, on how you got to be literally one of the most successful, badass, I don't even know how do you call it, because it's like just this executive amplifier coach. So yeah, tell us about that part of the story, how you got here.
Yeah, first of all, just such a joy and an honor to be here with you, Darren. Like you said, we've known each other for a while, and we've been fierce champions for each other as individuals and for our passions in the world and the impact we want to make.
Yeah.
And so I just love who you are, your authenticity. This is just like a special moment. So thank you for having me. Yeah, we met in about 1999, I think it was. And you and I, we would do our wacky, what I called Fred Flintstone workouts in the Hollywood Hills, which were basically yanking rocks up the mountain and push-ups and pull-ups. And we just hit it off because we shared a lot of common values, and we really wanted to inspire and uplift people to live their best life, their super life. And we were both on a path to do it. We were always looking ways to help each other out. You were always the superfood hunter. That was kind of like the core in there that you loved. And I just saw that always. And you had so many other ways that you impacted people. But I just, really, you continued to inspire me along the way. I started out as an actor in Hollywood. And what drew me to that, first of all, was a couple of great opportunities to host some kid shows for Nickelodeon, live stage shows, did some shows for ESPN2 in college. It thrust me in front of the camera. And I wanted to use the camera to inspire people, to help them to do what they came into this life to do. And as long as I got acting work and opportunities to inspire people, I loved it. And eventually I discovered that I didn't have to be rich and famous to really help people. And it took me some bumps and bruises along the way to figure that out, because I was stuck in Hollywood trying to get to the top of a mountain I thought was necessary, but I'd lost my passion. Acting really wasn't the passion, but it took me a lot of challenge to discover that the real passion for acting was being able to inspire people to do the thing they think is impossible, their big thing.
I want to get back to your story, but I think this is super important. I've seen a lot of other people say similar things in terms of, um, and it's usually from this perspective, either music or art or acting or something. Hey, why do I want to do this? I want to do it so that I can inspire people. And and although that might be true, it seems like there's a it's almost like a suspension of the truth before you actually get to the things. So it's like you're actually not doing what it is that you're doing, what you want to do in the moment, because you've also put it out there. When I get there, then I will be that person. Fuck. And it is like, it is tricky to unpack where the ego or where the scarcity or fear may be hiding in some of that stuff. So talk to me about that, because I know pretty intimately your, you know, your thrust and pull back in excavation through some of that. And now just to highlight, you're fucking on your path. Like there is no doubt. And your communicative skills, you didn't need a camera, you didn't need any of that stuff to amplify, because you actually are amplifying and you're working with some powerful people and they're amplifying. And so it's so funny. I'm just painting that picture a little bit. So then what was that like for you to realize that, oh, it's actually I'm not actually that's a middleman that I don't need to pursue who and what I am.
You nailed it, Darren. I mean, boy, I wish I could cut out at least 7 years in there where I felt like I was beating my head against a rock trying to figure that out. But people like you and dear friends in my life and coaches that I've had helped me to cut out what you referred to as the middleman. I think part of that challenge is that our minds, our linear human egos, the part of us that kind of has a self-identity, it's trying to figure out how to do what it wants to do, and it thinks it knows the way. And in some cases, you know a few steps, but I think you and I both know that they are non-linear moves, opportunities and inklings that you get of what is meant for you, and it takes courage to follow those. Now, you and I have become friends, I think. One of the reasons is because we have challenged each other to make those bold moves, to defy and go against popular opinion, trends, and even our own family's encouragement, to stay true to that internal path that is being given to you. And I believe each one of us has that. And I think that is the push-pull, that fight between our head and our heart. And it takes courage and it takes support to be able to go against some of that patterning.
Jeff, I think this is one of the most important things for any human to understand. I really do, because what you said is really about those inklings, and that I always like to say it's this feather touch.
Mm.
It's the voice within us. It's our power voice. It is beyond our ego. It is this primordial, soulful, the truth of who you are, but it's not making choices for you. You still get to be Jeff, and I get to be Darren, and we get to live this life here, but it's for us to navigate and understand and hopefully open up that aperture. And it's so easy to blow off that feather touch, that hint. And also, so everybody, for the most part, unless you find powerful friends that go, no, 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 I hear you, I see you, I recognize that in you, and in fact, I'm going to poke you towards it. I'm going to poke at it, and that's rare. And that's rare. And I also want to reflect our friendship in that way, because as a man, it's rare. Listen, the women in my life have been the greatest advocates, especially the ones I love that are close to me and everything else, and they reflect, that on a daily freaking basis. But like your friendship is so special, and that type of friendship is so special because it's no bullshit. We don't get to hide, and it's an amplifier to that feather touch. So talk to me about your, because that 7 years was not easy for you, and that feather touch that was hinting at you in spite of Nebraska upbringing, in spite of what you're supposed to do, in spite of family, in spite of finances. Talk to me about that, man, because everybody can relate to all of this.
Yeah, well, I would call what we're talking about here that light whisper that lives in all of us, directing us in our unique, authentic path. And the way we access it is through being still and our intuition. You could give it any name you want, but it takes stepping off the normal distractions that all of us face in our busy lives in this full world, and stepping back and really tuning into what you want, listening to what your desires are, even though you may be on a course. And that's what I find is really hard for a lot of people. And it was really hard for me. I was hustling to make ends meet. I was working as an actor, but as you can imagine, it took a lot of hustle, a lot of work, and also in some cases, a lot of side hustle to support it financially and just pursue the real purity of the art forms that I was passionate about. So that's what was so challenging for me, because I was so caught up in now making a living and taking care of myself, in addition to following my creative pursuits. Who has time to step back and go, what am I really doing this for? And what is it that I really want? But what I've learned and what I help a lot of people do through my coaching practice is I help people to slow down and ask that bigger question, to step off the hamster wheel of success and achievement, which is important. I'm not denying that, but to really make sure that you're going true north with your soul, with your heart, with what you really want. And that doesn't mean that you leave your day job to go pursue it. You and I both know, we're 20 years in the making to get where we are in our successful lives now. And I'd like to think we're just getting started, but it was not overnight. And I think it wasn't overnight because we had to take care of those other things. But you and I both, I know, and some of our friends, we stayed true to listening to that, always making sure that we're listening to our true north, not just trying to make the bills or, be famous or something like that. So slowing down is really important. And it's the hardest thing to do when you've got a full and busy life, like everyone does listening to this podcast.
Yeah, and it is. It's like, it could be 30 seconds. It could be 5 minutes. It could be, a hawk flying over your head giving you a message. And I'm not even joking, right? It's like the we are nature, and nature is us. As much as we modernize it, as much as we disconnect from it, as much as we live indoors rather than outdoors, as much as we wear shoes without our feet on the ground, whatever we do to divorce ourselves from nature, it still doesn't mean we're not nature. And nature is always communicating. The soul, the feather touch, the whisper is always whispering. But my God, we're so good at dampening it. And we're so good at giving it away, giving our power away, allowing for an authority to have authority over our moods, over our steps, over our actions, over our common sense, instead of our deep sense of what it is that we want. So I remember a couple moments. We were in the car somewhere in some weird ass Hollywood place, and these things started to pop. Like, you started to pop out. Like, as we were going through school and as we were getting all of this time to self-reflect, and you were still acting and you started like selling cars and actually got really good at it, like all of this stuff. But then you started popping, and I thought you started grabbing clients and you started zeroing in. I'm like, oh, well, he's zeroed in on me so often. Of course he should do that. Of course because he's so good at it. What? Because it isn't. And I think what's so important is like, it's so naive to say, follow your heart and everything's going to work out. Like, no, it's fucking hard work, because that's just the density of the reality that we all chose to live on. Like, I'm going to cut my finger, I'm going to, run into a whatever. And things are hard to build. It's a brick at a time in a certain sense. What was that moment? And then I want to get to the big thing, the big thing effect. But I think it's important, because I just want people to understand, because I think people blow themselves off way too fast and too early, and they don't know how they're going to get there, so therefore they don't do it at all. So
Mhm.
talk to me about those moments where you're just like, hey, I'm gonna start doing this thing, and then it just started building, right?
Yeah, on one level, my coaching people to go big in their life had been there since I was a very little boy. Growing up with divorced parents, experiencing quite a bit of emotional turmoil and some heartache as a kid. I think emotionally, I was a seeker, and I sought to know the deeper meaning of life, which had me ask questions in it. And I really loved people. And very early on, I'd always had this ability to listen to someone and almost hear and see what's blocking them and what would like launch them in a meaningful way toward their most important goal. And that has ever since I can remember, that gift has been with me. And so I always used it, and I was always having conversations. I was on the phone a lot as a kid in high school and in college. And when I was in Hollywood, I had people calling me sometimes 6 hours a day. I'd be on the phone. They're just like, just keep talking to me because good things are happening. And so I refused to take money for it, but that was there all along. And then the popping that you're referring to, the popping was really, it kind of happened in a moment. For many years, I would watch actors, Tom Cruise, Matthew McConaughey. I'd see them act in a film, and I'd think to myself, oh man, I'd love to be Matthew McConaughey in that role. I'd love to play that role. And then when I was really, in the prime of schooling and starting to coach people, because people were saying, what is it going to take? What can I pay you to talk to me on a regular basis? I started having clients. That was about 1999. And then I had this experience. I was actually seeing a coach at the time, a dear friend of mine, and she said, remember that old movie Contact with Matthew McConaughey and Jodie Foster? You should see that again. So I saw it. And I watched that movie, and that night, at the end of the film, I broke down in tears. And I realized that, and for those of you that might recall, there's a 1997 movie. It's an old classic, at least it is to me. Matthew McConaughey plays Joss Palmer, this author and kind of a coach figure. Now he would be seen as a thought leader. And he was inspiring people. I think he was being interviewed on Larry King Live in the movie. Anyway, at the end of the film, I had this epiphany. For the first time, I realized I didn't want to be Matthew McConaughey, the actor. In this moment, I wanted to be Joss Palmer, the character he played. And it hit me. It all came together. And I realized that I was pursuing something that wasn't giving me passion, which was fame and success. And even acting as an art form wasn't fulfilling me anymore. But I still knew I wanted to touch a lot of people in a genuine, in a meaningful way that was aligned with my gifts. And so that next morning, I got up and I made an absolute decision that I was going to pivot and going to shift. And that's when things started falling into place. And again, it wasn't overnight. It took me a long time for that to become a full-time proposition financially. But it took that commitment to really turn it around.
Yeah. it's funny that wherever we go, there we are. Wherever we go, if we can look back and have reflection on life, that life is always there. It's always giving us breadcrumbs to find our way. And when you have moments where it all clicks and you're like, oh, like I get it now. Like, and that's where it's like, it's hard as a human and it's also beautiful as a human in that respect, right? It's like
Yes.
you're beating your head against the wall, and then all of a sudden when it goes boom, it just goes, whoa, I get it. Um, I had my own shift during the second year where I was like, I had that moment where I'm gonna act. Like,
I
and,
remember
and
that. I remember
yeah,
that well.
and but I got the information that I knew I was gonna be in front of the camera. I just didn't know how to interpret it. And I had this huge download. You remember that? Like
Yes.
I was in the middle where we used to go work out and stuff. I was on a trail run and I was on my last dollars moving from Colorado to freaking Hollywood. I was like, what the hell am I doing? And this, and I like screamed. I was crying at 6 in the morning. I screamed at God and I was like, you better fucking tell me why the fuck I'm here. Sorry for my language, but that's how powerful it was. And I literally slammed the door and went for a run. And I said, you hear me? You got until I still remember that? I said,
I
you
do.
got until noon. And I was fucking every ounce of every cell, every nanoparticle of me knew that. And then I got a whole freaking download and it changed my life. But and so that I think that moment was like this crystallization and this opening of this aperture of the source of who I really was in the biggest way that I could receive at that time. And I sat for a year and a half writing from that energy influx. And this may sound weird. There was no drugs involved, right? This may sound weird to people, but it was legitimately how it happened. I just got hit while I was running and I stopped in my tracks. And then for a year and a half, I go, I know what happened, but I don't know what happened. So I just wrote from that place. But speaking of that, that was a big effect. That was a big thing in my life. And I just want to say, people, your book, when this podcast is coming out, I don't know if we're gonna make it so that when people are hearing it, it might be available, whatever else. But you've got to check out this book. If there's any part of you that wants to read a good book, okay. And then if you want to get access and have an excuse to find more of who you are, then this is the book to go to. So so the book's called Big Thing Effect. The Big Thing Effect. So Jeff, in your words, what's the big thing?
Well, the big thing, as I point out in the book, is the most important goal in your life at this time. And the big thing effect is the powerful unlocking and unleashing that happens when you say yes to it. So for you, when you said yes to that big thing decades ago, it changed you. It didn't happen overnight. You didn't know how it was going to happen. You bumped into some dead ends along the way, but you stayed true and said yes, and it led you and it changed you. It brought you to relationships. It brought you to places. It's kind of like, I grew up on a farm in Nebraska. It's like when you lasso a stallion and you hold on, it is going to pull you. It's going to take you. And your big thing can take you in a way that no therapist, no idea, no philosophy can, because it's authentically already in you.
Yeah, I mean I think that's so utterly true. And even when, again, this is the part of the brain or the the challenge of being human is we want to go, yeah, but I don't know how it's going to look. I don't know how I would do that, and all of these things. And it just and then it just keeps going and going and going and going. And that's where it's almost like if you say yes to it, even if it's just listen, for me, I was saying yes to what I felt. Again, this is going to sound weird. There was no drugs. Uh, it was almost as if I was saying yes to the highest self, the the godliest part, the most natural part of myself that I was saying yes to for the first time in my life consciously. And I had no idea. And yet I had a knowing, an infinite knowing that I knew what I was going to do. And yet I had no idea what I was going to do. Right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I like the way, yeah, there's so many things you said in there that are so powerful. I want to back up for a second, because you said before you took that run, you put your foot down and you said, I want to know in no uncertain terms my big thing. Like, show me the bigger picture. You asked for it. You declared it. There was no part of you that was second guessing. You made a clear declaration. And I have 100 stories like that from mine and other people's lives where people made a powerful declaration or asked a question with that level of certainty and clarity, and they got it. The same happened. I made a very similar request of life, just like you did before that run. Literally the day before I saw the Matthew McConaughey, replay of Contact. That's the power. So for anyone listening, if you're not certain of what your big thing is, or even if you know what it is, make a clear request. Show me what it is in no uncertain terms, in the ways that I know, so that I can pursue it, and then be willing to back it up. That is a very powerful and real thing.
Yeah. So let's unpack that a little bit. Like just get in. Again, you go through this so brilliantly in the book. And again, I think it's one of the most important things that we can do in our lives, because it's really no more excuses, no more outside. Even though we all will get outside support, that's what life is. We're infinitely connected. We're not doing anything by ourselves, even if you have things going on in your head saying it's true. It's a complete lie. It's just the ego. But all of these things, it takes things like, you go in the book, you have to deeply want to do it, right? So you have to understand, like, and let's unpack that a little bit, because the ego can come in there. It's got to listen. I was just the other day, I got a brand new show that I'm putting together, and I'm scared. I'm so excited and then scared at the same time. Like, so you have to be scared a bit, because it's also taking you out of your, I love programs. I love to kind of get into my own routines, and to a point where I'm like, oh man, I got to break out of this. I'm not receiving any information. So we can easily get worn down into all that stuff. And then some of it, because it's got to be big, and some of it feels fucking impossible. Right? So like, again, we go into the how. How will I do it? How? Not your job yet, right? And so you say this, which I think is really brilliant. The how may be just temporarily elude you, right? So it's just like, hey man, just let that part of your brain and trying to control everything, just it's gonna come. Just, you don't need to know that right now. So because people are saying, yeah, I've got goals, I've got all that stuff, but let's sophisticate ourselves around the big thing versus a few goals and stuff.
You're bringing up a number of really good points from the telltale signs of a big thing. And as I like to say in the book, I remind people that your big thing is more than just a goal. It is a mountaintop daring you to touch it. And it's authentically big to you, not big by someone else's standards. It's big and scary to you. And there are 7 telltale signs that I have tracked and found that every big thing has. Number 1, as you said, you deeply want it. Heart and soul want it, which is a vulnerable thing. Because if we want something, we fear that what might happen if we can't have it or we don't get it. So deeply heart and soul want it. That's number 1. Number 2 is it scares you. It scares you for a number of reasons. Number 1, it's outside your comfort zone. Number 2, you haven't done it before. If you've done it before, it's not a big thing. Your big thing is bigger than anything you've done like this in this manner. So number 2, it will scare you. And it's not scaring all of you. It's scaring your ego. It's scaring who you thought you were, which is a limitation for most of us anyway. If we're an infinite being, which you and I believe we are, no identity, even a good self-identity, is limited by comparison. So number 2, it scares you. Number 3, it will or may seem impossible. That could be the timing is impossible, or, I can't do it today, but maybe tomorrow. Some aspect of it may seem impossible. Number 4, and you said this powerfully, the how may temporarily elude you. Most people's egos cling to certainty and safety. It wants to know, how do we get there? How am I going to do it? They don't let themselves clarify what they want because they haven't figured out how. But you can't reach something you haven't clarified. So the what, knowing what the big thing is specifically, why it's important, and those clarity pieces are more important than the how right now. And that is the number 1 hang up people have as entrepreneurs, especially in business, but any endeavor, is they get hung up on the how. They can't figure it out. And they're like, you know what? When I'm clear on the how, then I'll do it, which is never going to happen. So that's number 4. Right. Number 5 is you can't do it alone. If you can do what you're wanting to do on your own without help, it's not a big thing. Now, it may be wonderful and you may need to do it, and I would encourage you to, but a big thing is unique. It's special because it's going to unlock you in a way that nothing else can. And part of that reason is because a big thing is so big, you can't do it on your own. Then moving on to number 6 is doing your big thing requires that you transform as a human being. You can't get there by being who you are being today. And what I mean to say, some people think, oh, well, that's horrible. Are you saying that I'm inadequate, that I'm not enough as I am? No, actually, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying you are infinite, but today you're pretending not to be. Most of my coaching is about subtracting these psychological habits and limiters and limitations we put on ourselves. We don't need to learn a new tactic. We don't need to add more to us. We need to take some stuff off to let our true power that we've been avoiding shine. And this, your big thing, is automatically built to transform you. In fact, I think on one level, that's why the soul latches onto a big thing, because it knows that we will have to bring forward more of our strength, of our creativity, our joy, our brilliance, our authenticity in order to realize it. And that is one of the most powerful reasons to do it, is because it will transform you in the most wonderful way. Finally, number 7, a big thing is not just about you. It's bigger than you in the fact that it will serve others. If your big thing only impacts you and it's just about you, again, maybe a wonderful thing, doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but it's not a big thing. A big thing serves others in some way. It's beyond you. So those are the 7, and those are the things. It must hit each and every one of those to be a big thing. If it doesn't check the box on all 7 of those, it's a goal, not a big thing.
And like you said, and I love that. And it's not to say that these goals run parallel to it, right? You're like, hey, I have a goal of losing weight. It's like you have all those and they're fine, right?
Yes.
And in fact, some of them will support the big thing, right?
100%.
Get you hydrated, get sleep, lose some weight, work out, all of that stuff. Well, you just have more energy and life force to kick ass on your big thing. Like, of course, it's all integrated. So it doesn't have to be, but some of the, we can pontificate a little bit about what, what, number one, I want to be grounded in the sense that I think you said it already. We all have that whisper. We all have the unique fingerprint of the soul communicating to us in this reality. I believe that too. Hey, choose it or not. Not going to judge you over it. Life is crazy. Who the hell are we to understand what your karma, what your journey is on this blue planet? But what do you find, Jeff, when people say yes to it, when they start kind of excavating, oh shit, here, oh yeah, here it is. This is what I've known. Like if you like the story going back to you, like this thing, this ability that you have, this love that you have of the ability and contributing to people's lives, that's always been with you, right? So it's like it's like we are walking on the trail, and you said it brilliantly, because we're walking on this trail of life. We are complete, we are perfect in our imperfectness, and it's a letting go of, like you said, pretending to be, do, or have something instead of being and allowing and taking off of that filter. Because it's like I was in I'm not going to call him out, but I was talking to a good friend of mine just this morning, and I just brought up something. Maybe it was a little too political for him. It wasn't meant to be political. It was just, and he just, I'm not even going to bring it up what it is, but oh my God, he just, like, I thought it was intriguing. Like they found some information and people were investigating something. And he was like so emphatically against hearing anything. I was like, I started kind of laughing. I was like, holy shit. Like he's not receiving anything, like nothing, right? Because he's concluded something. He is, you call it what you want. He's pretending to know. He's in this instance, he's pretending to be omnipresent over a subject that he clearly could never know. None of us could. So that's a dangerous place to be, because you shut yourself off. And so I just want to say, like, it's closer to us than far away, this big thing, who we are, right?
Mhm.
And that's really where you're so good at finding things and go, are you sure? Are you sure? So what do you think people can do right now to even in this moment, even in listening to this, to kind of get a glimpse, get a feeling towards that big thing, aside from reading the book and really diving in, but like a moment of silence, like a moment of like, how do you think is a great tool to just start to cultivate this space a bit again?
Really good question. I have a couple different answers. One fresh in the moment that is not what I probably would have said coming into the, this interview, but right here in the moment, maybe this is for you specifically. But I think joy is a quality of the soul that I believe we all possess, and in abundance, and we don't need anything in order to feel it. And one access point that points you in the direction, or will help you be open to what you really love and are interested in, is to engage and cultivate the quality of joy from within you. Do things that make you joyful, make decisions that are aligned with joy, and regardless of your circumstances, have fun, enjoy your life. I think that is probably one of the most powerful things somebody could do, regardless of where you're at in relationship to your big thing. Clueless, have a hunch, or you know exactly what it is. Either way, that particular, we'll call it an exercise, is truly powerful. You mentioned also earlier, you said something that sparked an idea. You know, a lot of people push back with me in this conversation around big thing. If we don't know each other, they're like, but I got mouths to feed. I've got big responsibilities. I don't have time to sit and talk about some big airy fairy dream. What's my ultimate big thing? Well, in my opinion, I think what is keeping most people from being on fire, truly inspired, is not having their big thing clear. And I can tell you many stories of someone coming to me with a big time, usually a big corporate problem, or somebody who is already extremely successful, best in the world at what they do, and they're trying to pivot and channel that excellence into the pivot, and they're struggling. One of the biggest ways, really one of the fastest ways I coach people, is to get them on point with their big thing. That requires a little more time, but in the end, ultimately it's faster, and it puts people in touch with their power, not somebody else's power, or it's not externally based. So taking the time and exploring the question, what is the most important goal in my life at this time that I really want to do? And it's not just about what I want to do, it's who I want to be, the qualities I want to experience. It's important that we ask that question and pursue it. That's what got me off the treadmill of Hollywood. I actually stopped and asked a bigger question. What's the bigger thing I really want to do? If I didn't ask that question, I probably, who knows where I would be? I don't think I would be here without asking that question. And I really, on some level, want to go back to that younger me back then. I wish I could have given it to him 7 years earlier, because it wasn't wasted, made some great learnings, and it's ultimately added to where I am. And I really understand the struggles of what it really means to perform at an elite level when you're really facing adversity. But this is a performance hack. This is, people say, well, how do you really tweak performance? You want the straight, honest answer? This is it.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it can sound, people listen, especially today, and this just ever changing freaking weird ass world. Do you want to tap in to something that's beyond all of it, that's eternal and internal, to fuel you externally in whatever you want? Like, I want to tap into the deepest part of myself, to express myself in the deepest way, because now all my day-to-day becomes fueled by an infinite power that gets a lot of stuff done. So that's the difference, right? It's like you got exhausted kind of, having the map, diverting you through this map, going around, and it's like, well, that's a long course to get to this thing. Whereas if you just go to the big thing, and then it fuels your life now, today.
Exactly.
And you still have to take care of your family. You still have to do the jobs that you need to, but you and I have met people, you met people. I remember some guys driving to they're driving us to the airport, got a film project or whatever, and instead of driving my car, you get someone to come pick you up. And I remember a couple dudes throughout my life who were like, yes, they were driving, this was not the end, and they were so fired up with what they were doing and what they were committed to, and it made the relationship of him and I in that moment wonderful. It made him be an incredible driver of service, because he brought such a powerful energy, and I was touched. I'll never forget the guy. And I gave him a massive tip, And the point is, he's not going to stop, right? Because he's found his own big thing. So that's where this whole thing, dude, grounds itself. It's like you, again, temporary eluding of how, just get to it, honor it, own it, let it, and then let it fuel you and let it engage with you, and then live your life, and then you will find time to give your time currency over to it more and more and more. And then at a certain point, just like you could then fully transition into what you want to do, because everyone of success all has a story. Nothing is a light switch. Nothing. All people are working hard if they've gotten a certain way, and if they're not, probably got spit out.
So true.
So you know, that's I think that's why it's such an important piece to this whole thing, that it's really, really important for people to understand that it's required. Like, it's required that we get in touch with these bigger things. It's just, we just have to. And what was the final, what was your main, two questions. So what was your main reason of kind of writing the book? And then how do you think people could best use it? Because it's really, you're steering people back. This is a whole Aikido exercise that you have, I think, in terms of like, you're steering people back to the harmony, the access point of themselves. You've always done that for me. Now you're doing it within this broader scope. You're doing it with your clients. I know, I've gotten to know some of your clients who are just extraordinary people, and are tapped into their hearts and passion and moving mountains, right? So what was your source? Like, doing a book's hard. Like, writing a book is hard. What was your main focus of wanting to do it?
Well, the impetus and desire of writing the book is the same impetus that led me to Hollywood and ultimately led me to leave Hollywood to pursue inspiring and uplifting people. It's been my dream since I was a small boy to encourage people and to help them to both clarify the most important thing that they want to do at this time, and then to do it. This book is there's a framework in this book that will show you how to clarify, and most importantly, truly what it takes to realize your big thing. And there are some unique tools in there that I use and have used for more than 20 years with my clients, world champion athletes, Hollywood celebrities. Some of them became successful because of our coaching. So I get the calls when, somebody's, when everything is on the line and they need to perform or they need to go to a new level. And this book is really, doesn't matter how successful you've been. You may already currently be the very best in the world, but the principles in this book could take even someone like that to a new level. And it's what I've been using for a long time. It's what I even did before I was quote unquote a coach, which is why people were always kind of drawn to me. And you mentioned your Uber driver, whoever you were chatting with who inspired you. I've always been on fire because I've been chasing a big thing for most of my life. And it always drew people to me. And people said, how are you so impenetrable? How are you so unflappable? You get so much rejection as an actor. Well, I never faced rejection. Rejection is an idea in the mind, and nobody could ever do anything to me. Only I could do that. So I want to give that to people. I grew up as a kid who wanted to control his surroundings and try to help the adults in his world reach their dreams. And that never really goes well. You know what I mean? It's like, we're not meant to control other people around us, but it really lit a fire under me to try to help people. And so because of that, it led me on a path, and that's where it led me to this book. My dream for this book is that it would inspire many, many people to clarify their big thing. If that's all someone got from the book is, yes, I'm going to clarify my big thing. I am committed to clarifying. I'll just tell you this. If you clarify your big thing, you will already change your life. There's absolutely, I'll give you 100 stories of just clarifying your big thing, how it will change you. And if you commit to it and you're open to how, and you follow the principles in this book, I mean, it'll catapult you genuinely.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I mean, I have no doubt because you've been committed to this thing, and it's I'm not surprised, and at the same time, the way you articulate it in this book, it just it illuminates something. I know for me, it goes on mostly internal, right? These kind of questions or feelings or guidances or intuitions or goalposts or whatever. It's mostly an internal thing. I've always been self-reflective, but this book, which is why I'm just I just started smiling from ear to ear when I started reading it, because you're what you're doing is you're, not to mention again the stories that, I mean, that, do you want to talk a little bit about this, the first part of the climbing the mountain? Do you want to say a little bit about that? Because that shit is I had no idea the level of intensity you went through when you were climbing that mountain. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because
Sure.
that
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a few years ago, I committed to climbing one of the 7 summits, Mount Aconcagua in southern Argentina. And it's 23,000 feet high. It's the highest mountain in the world outside of Asia. And I had no climbing experience at the time. And to me, it represented a big thing, something I'd always wanted to do, something I didn't think I was ready to do, scared the crap out of me. Plus, I was definitely afraid of heights at the time. So anyway, trained for a year, and we went down to climb this mountain, and the book opens up on summit day. Now, we spent 15 days on the side of this huge peak trying to get to the summit safely and back down as a team. There were 7 of us plus 3 guides. And the book opens up on summit day, the last final push to the summit. Our team dwindled from 7 down to 5. And on summit day, as I'm inching across, something happens. A man falls off in front of me. And we kind of see what happened to me on summit day after all the ordeals I'd gone through with the training and the second guessing and the questioning. And this book really follows my chronicles of training for and then attempting to summit this mountain and how that changed me. And I follow the principles, the 7 keys to doing your big thing through that story.
Yeah, I mean, it's so it's so beautiful because anyone, I think, doing anything in life, you can relate to, especially how you articulated it. It's like a microcosm of the macrocosm that goes on all the time, with watching our mind, seeing our mind, our limits popping up, and what are we going to do in the face of? Are we going to bow out? Are we going to step up? What are we going to do, and how are we going to respond? I'm telling you, man, that was so, I felt like I was there with you. Like, that was unbelievable. And I think such a beautiful part of a book like this, using that as the muse to tell this, because we all, even though not climbing the mountain, we all can relate with what's going on inside, and then being able to share that through your 20 plus years of working with people, and successful people, and then success on top of success, and allowing people. It's not about, we've got success so twisted in the world, right? We have GDP as the primary mover of the economy, at the divorcing of everything else. I always find the stat of the the BP oil spill
Mm.
from a GDP perspective, because all of the money that had to come into that place to clean that up over the massive environmental destruction and human destruction of that area and environmental destruction, the GDP of that was a positive. So if you look at it from an economic standpoint, from this tiny little lens, it looks as if on paper that that was a positive event.
Hmm.
So that to me, it's like, what the hell are we doing? So, so how do you, Jeff, define like this? Because I know that, how do you define success? Because you are looking at all of that differently. And again, creating the right fuel behind what people really, really want.
That is a brilliant question. I think ultimately each of us must answer that question for ourselves and then live into it. And the degree to which we live into our own authentic version of success will be the degree to which we're fulfilled, satisfied, happy. However, there are things that I've learned just because of my career and my own unique path. The times when I have been the most fulfilled, the most satisfied, have had nothing or little to do with money. I can think back to moments in my life where I had money, where I didn't have money, and I was on fire. The reason that I was on fire, the reason I felt so fulfilled is I was pursuing and living into and growing to be able to realize at that time my big thing. So it's one of the biggest factors for me personally. When I look back through history, what had me be the most fulfilled, the most satisfied, feeling the most successful, it was the degree to which I was engaged in my big thing. It wasn't necessarily getting to the top. It wasn't being on the top. It was the pursuit and the personal growth and the connection, just like our friendship and the satisfaction. And that's really what I'm trying to give people is not an alternative, but a deeper perspective of true and lasting, authentic success. Success where you are on fire and fulfilled, where you love what you're feeling and you're contributing. And my experience is when people are doing that, money is taken care of. And I don't just mean, theoretically, I mean, legitimately, they are prospering financially. That's been the case for me. And so many of the people that I've coached, the degree to which they were fully embodied in their big thing, their money, a lot of people think, oh, well, when I have money someday, then I can pursue my big thing. That was a trap I fell into. It's why I thought I had to wait to become rich and famous before I could actually be a coach. And I was most fulfilled and satisfied by being that person, coaching, uplifting, working with people and companies. And by doing that, money became a non-issue. So to me, I encourage people to not make lifestyle the most important thing and not even make money the most important thing. Make who you're being and really doing your big thing or what's most important in your life. Make that a priority. And the others will be completely different because of it. It is a total multiplier, and that is the big thing effect.
Dude, that's it so much, because it is the multiplier that is so non-linear and pleomorphic when you step into that place where you become that magnet. And if you're not connected to your real big thing, and it's maybe muffled in ego, or it's got money at the top and you're not being honest with yourself, or it's got fame at the top and you're not that there's anything wrong with money. I love
Right.
money, I love fame, and whatever it is that is a part of it, but it can't lead it, I find.
Yes.
So because it's a weird energy when those things are like that. I know when people come at me or they want me involved in something, and if it feels, it's just like a deep knowing. It's like, nah, it doesn't feel right. And I, going back to what you're saying, like I'm currently working on this new TV show. We haven't shot anything. We are just, I am so fired up, and I'm just, we're putting it together. I'm writing episodes. I am just, and I'm feeling it. I'm seeing it. And people are just coming, right? Ideas, concepts, badass people, projects, sponsors, and we haven't shot anything, right? Similar to Down to Earth. Like Down to Earth, when we're in it, when we're writing, oh my God, let's do an episode on this, let's do an episode on that, and like, oh my God, and then this happened and that happened, things you can't plan. Like, and then yeah, you shoot it and you're having fun, but almost it kind of pales in comparison to really letting the passion and the creativity kind of boil over, and then the right people will come, the right things will show up, and like you said, like money shows up where there's a lot of money out there, and there's a lot of scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that certainly, and if you go through the list that you just mentioned on the big thing, if it doesn't have those qualities, then you don't create much of a receptacle for people, or the right people, or the right kind of funding, or the right kind of thing, because it has all these other weird aspects to it. It's not as clean, right? And so that's the other thing. Like, again, if you're an entrepreneur person busting their ass, go through Jeff's book and cultivate your true north, because you will become a magnet and get out of, and like you said before, let go of some limiting beliefs so that things can come to you more easily, and then at least you have more passion and energy to give over towards these things. It just makes so much sense. I get so excited about this stuff because it's just like, you know, Jeff, you and I know, like, and I think that's what this book is. You know, if there was a pill, there never is a pill, there never will be a pill, but if there is a pill to give, it is the saying yes to yourself, saying yes to something, and then letting it, and just do your life, pay your bills, do your thing, but say yes, and then watch as this thing starts to have a snowball effect. I mean, it's just true. You've been doing this for how many years? You've been doing it for yourself and all these high powered people, and also not high powered people. Like you just, in your nature, have helped hundreds and hundreds of people, just because that's you know, the spirit of who you are. And you know, how great is it when the light bulb goes off, right, for people?
It's incredible. And when you do it, as much as I've done it, you see how it's done in every instance. And granted, part of what's fun working with individuals is intuitively, I pick up certain things that will help somebody that's just unique to them. But there are certain things, you know, and on the road to your big thing, you know, I talk about the book, how you shift your way of being to match your big thing. And that is something most people don't understand in the world of performance, in the world of business, is you can systematically shift the qualities that you embody, your focused, and your inner psychology swiftly. That includes mindset, but it's bigger than just that. And this book lays that out so that you can today, you can flip a switch in terms of who you're being. So you don't have to wait to get there in order to be the person you want to be. This book shows you how to be who you need to be to realize it. And by it lets you flip that switch today, which doesn't have you trying to get there. It has you fully inhabiting this moment. You have more fun, and it's a total fuel and multiplier to get there.
Yeah, and start to eliminate that I will be good when.
Yes.
It's like, and this is really where really start to cultivate, you know, everyone says, and the poets say, it's the journey, not the destination. But this is really how you get to experience the journey, the just wonder and infinite capture of passion of the journey. It doesn't mean that it's not challenging. God's sakes, man, when I first had that awakening and I started telling my family in Minnesota and South Dakota, you remember that shit?
Mhm.
Oh my God. Unfortunately, I saved letters where people said you need to go to the priest and ask for forgiveness. I'm like, oh my God, you would have thought that I,
Was
committed the
possessed by
worst crime.
demons.
Yeah, like literally, I'm having people say that. And so when people say, it's not met with challenges, oh my God, my whole family, I saved all of those letters, dude. Unfortunately, when my house burned down, it's just like over there. I lost all of those real letters that I got from family members saying the strangest shit. Obviously, I remember what they said, um, but but it's like just like kind of full circle as we were talking before. It is on us to listen because it's our life. It's our life. And we are being spoken to in every moment of every day from this great mystery, the all father, the all mother, the nature, the God, the universe is traveling with us, in us, around us, and through us. And it is communicating at all moments. And it is here right now. And what do we want to do? Who do we want to be? And it isn't looking for that outside. It isn't going, well, that person's successful because they're doing this and that and the other thing. It is literally a language that you can only decipher. No one else can because it's uniquely you. And I am just so excited for people to get this book. I'm gonna blast this book everywhere because I think it has a blueprint of things that I resonate with so much and the things that I've gone through. And it just goes to show, like, to have a brotherhood like you, Jeff, and after all these years, you lose touch with people because they're on a different, and that's no fault of anyone's else. Life creates different things, but there's always been this through line with you. You've always had the truth, the north, and you've always been committed. And I just also want to just publicly say thank you for all of the guidance and the insight, and the holding me true, to who I am. And listen, everyone, this guy is the type of person that he just has a feeling and he calls me and he drops this wisdom bombs and it's like perfect. And he's like, how the fuck did he know that? And you know, cultivate friendships like that too, and then cultivate a way and a path to your big thing, because I think that's the medicine we need in this world. And I just want to thank you for being here today and being my friend and being an advocate of truth, um, for the world.
That just touched my heart. I mean, I'm tearing up, as you can see, and I just appreciate you because you're so many of those things to me, and your authenticity and your purity, your willingness to stay true to your big thing, which is bigger than just a TV show, and it's even bigger than podcasts and the avenues through which you want to help change the world. You've been pure to that big thing since day one, and you've known you've wanted to do certain things like have TV shows and all those things, and you got clear on it, right? When the vision is clear, the resources appear. You got clear, but it took some time, and you had to get out of the way. You had to say yes, which is what we're talking about. Say yes to your big thing, clarify it, and say yes. And it will start to lead you in a way that you couldn't lead yourself. And you epitomize that. If anybody wants to know, if somebody to watch as an authentic, journey person toward that, they look to you.
Jeff, I'm just like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so stoked, and I can't wait for people to be exposed to who they are, what they are, and understanding their big thing, man.
Thanks, Big D. Appreciate it. So much fun as always, and look forward to the next one.
Yeah, man.